So one of our speakers has actually just flown in from the other conference. But of course, we were so awesome and so desired that he wanted to make sure that he came here and wasn't just stuck there. And of course, what does he come for as well? The after party. So hopefully, if you haven't got tickets already, you'll be getting them because you're going to want to ask him. He is one of the key people that was also involved in writing about the Google exploits, not the exploits, the reveal of the various different Google maybe, but maybe not ranking factors. Could be, could be not, that Mark was also talking about. Now, Mark, I can see that you're mic'd up. So Mark, I'm going to call you up to the stage. And then while you come up to the stage, what I'm going to do is introduce not only the person who ran over here, literally and figuratively, but also our other special guest that isn't at the other conference. So first, I'd like to introduce Fernando, who is the Senior Market Research Manager and an international speaker at SEMrush. Have a seat. And he gave me his 2 truths and a lie a little bit of time ago. See, I haven't asked you for them because I already had them from a previous conference. So let's see if he can remember what he told me. He is a passionate cinephile who has visited movie theaters in over 50 countries around the world, from the grand palaces of Paris to the intimate art house cinemas of Tokyo. I really want that to be true. He used to be a professional gamer and has won several international tournaments in the popular game League of Legends. And the last, somebody's just said, yeah, that's him. And the last one is he is a passionate foodie who loves trying new cuisines and experimenting with different cooking techniques. He's always on the lookout for the next great culinary adventure. I'm feeling like we might be able to guess, but I'm going to leave the audience guessing for just a moment. Welcome on stage, Fernando. And our final special guest also, but he's actually come from the other conference and has flown over today on, I think it was KLM, wasn't it? And ran over from the airport straight here. So, the last conference panelist is Mike. He is the founder and CEO at iPullRank, and he speaks around the world, as we're very well aware of now, and works with blue chip companies. So he's working really hard all the time. And he gave me his 2 truths and a lie. They're amazing. I kind of want all of them to be the truth. The first one is, he toured America with the Wu-Tang Clan as a rapper. And any of you who know Mike knows that he is a rapper. Civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. is his grand uncle. Grand is it's like grandparents level. And the greatest shooter in NBA history, Steph Curry, is his cousin. I feel like you're bigging him up, so that might be the truth, but please welcome to the stage, Mike! Woo. And see, this is why we're the better conference. Woohoo!
You're saying that with a guy from SEMrush right here.
Exactly, I know. I started out the day that way, though.
These are signals, isn't it? You're coming from there, from SEMrush being here.
You've come from Spotlight. You're not even there. You came here instead. And we're all here instead. So I think we're doing the much better. It's the much better opportunity for everybody who's here, I think, because you guys are awesome. Yeah. You guys are awesome, and we have some amazing questions. It is a really we've had a very AI-heavy day, and a really heavy, what's going to come up, but really emphasizing the Google side of things. And a lot of people are talking through, what is Google bringing us? What is Google going to do? And there are questions, I guess, in any panel like this where we're talking about what is the future of search, where is search going, there is the inevitable existential crisis of, well, are we all going to have jobs in the next 5 years? And that is it's a difficult question to answer, I think. A few of the questions that came through were actually are we going to have jobs? Are we having an existential crisis? Should we just be playing Connect 4 with Mark?
Are you good at Connect 4?
Yeah, I'll win if I start.
I am amazing. It's going down.
It's a solved game.
Yeah,
so
it's going down.
As long as I start, I'll win.
You won't. Anyway. Hey, guys, this is my first time meeting Mark in person, and I have been, I have been badgering him for months to reveal the stuff he shared with you all today, and I didn't even get to see it. That's messed up.
You need to publish a video.
But what was the first thing you said to me when we met?
You're taller than me. I didn't
Of all
expect
the
that.
things you could say to me, you went, oh, you're taller than me.
Well, everything else I knew. Anyway, so to this question, are we in an existential crisis? Are we going to have jobs? I do think our space is in a bit of an existential crisis in that we don't necessarily know what we need to do. Like, everything is all about AI suddenly, and everybody's kind of forgetting, like, hey, we have core work that we need to do that is still important and still moves the needle. But will we have jobs? Yes, absolutely, because I think that to that same point, we continue to evolve, right? Like, I've been doing SEO since, 2006, and it hasn't been the exact same work for these last 18 years. We've just continued to learn more. Our tools have leveled up. We understand better how these algorithms operate. And so based on that, our job changes. And I think as a function of generative AI, it's going to change again. And it's going to be something different because, we kind of get saddled with the work of other disciplines, right? Think about metadata. Why is that our job? Why don't copywriters just write that the right way? And despite that, like, we are the ones that are tasked with preparing it, even though it is like content creation. So I think with generative AI, we're actually uniquely positioned for this as well because it's built off of some of the same stuff that we've been playing with for all this time.
But for that same reason, that can be easily extrapolated to many other of the activities that we do. It's pretty much optimizing what other areas should have done well initially. So from a development standpoint, why the navigation wasn't crawlable in the first place,
right.
In any case, right? And so on. We're the layer for findability of the entities, of the properties, of the websites, where the products are being sold, services, the brands, the companies, in any case. So I believe that there will be a need for optimization and maximization, let's say, for that findability, independently of the platform. I mean, heck, if it is not Search GPT, it will be TikTok, whatever shift in the paradigm and the new platform that users do. If we need to end up like optimizing TikTok videos for a living, if like the younger generation seems to be searching and using that platform in the day-to-days, like, let it be. I mean, we will have a job independently of whatever platform that is being used. If we are always proactive, let's say, and play and identify the opportunities and understand the preferences of our users and how potential customers are using those particular platforms and what are the opportunities on those platforms to maximize the visibility of our clients, of independently of whatever properties or presence they have at that point that we can highlight in those platforms, right? It can change. Like, imagine, for example, we were talking before about App Store optimization, right? That is very basic, like 90s SEO at the end of the day. So, yep. Yeah, but it's also about optimization, right? So let's extrapolate that in a much more sophisticated way in a newer platforms that now more people are using. It will be a little bit of that. Yes, not necessarily everybody will be able to shift. Not everybody is necessarily that sophisticated or have that understanding or are able to pretty much work with real companies or real brands that allows them to do that or to integrate with the product team or with the branding team and like optimize for the findability in whatever platforms, because unfortunately, it is like that. Many of the share of the SEO community had been pretty much just maximizing on the arbitration of creating web presence to monetize on traffic. So that part of our industry, I believe, will tend to not necessarily be able to keep up with the changes. But if we work with real brands, with real companies, that we can provide, or we are real brands, real companies, that will still be sellable in whatever platform, I think that there's a point to be there, and we should be able to try to keep up. And right now, it's pretty black box, but I pretty much believe that that was also the case 20 years or more ago when Google started to become a thing, right? Or in 1998, I think sorry, I'm stuck in the past. Anyway.
A bit of 20, yes. I believe every time that something that existential like AI, for example, I don't know, right now happening, the demand for SEO specialists just goes up. And in terms of data, we have analyzed Indeed a lot of times, many times, to see what is the demand of SEO specialists in the US, for example. And we have seen that there is a huge spike in the demand of SEO specialists. But for content-related specialties, let's say copywriter or content manager, the demand is going low really fast. Like comparing 22 with 23, the demand only for copywriters has been going down in more than 70%. So copywriters, content managers, but that's of course scaring for content managers, maybe for SEOs as well. But in terms of the content creation, there are another new types of professions like AI copywriter or AI, engineering of
Prompt engineer?
Prompt engineering, copywriter. So there are new kind of specialties that are coming up.
So the copywriters don't have an existential crisis. It's fine. They just need to, like SEOs, have to adapt to new ways of working and new ways of approaching the marketplace. And I guess, Mark, as well, what you found in the bug that you reported, the leak, the API backend, is that a lot of stuff that a lot of SEOs that have been advanced and moving forward in their careers knew for years, because we test and we check and we do things. So it's not quite as much an existential crisis for those who have been advancing and who have been pushing forward and who are in fact here because they came to see you and Aleyda and all of us. So maybe...
I mean, I'm deep in crisis. I'm practicing Frisbee, low-key.
You're going to become a professional Frisbee player.
Well, I think at some point we will hit AGI, so general intelligence, and then, I mean, it won't be unique to SEO, but then I think there will be very, very, very big changes. I don't know when that will be. I agree with kind of everything everyone said here in terms of, I think SEO will be more important while we're in this LLM Gen AI stage, because I think actually brands, and this may sound contradictory and weird, I think brands will become less important in terms of how we think of them now. I mean, like, hands up if you shop at Amazon, right? So who buys stuff from Amazon? I don't believe it's not almost everyone, right? So just keep your hands up a sec. If you shop at Amazon, help me with this, right? And then now put your hand down if you think Amazon is an ethical company. Right. So people, you know, for convenience, shop at Amazon.
Yeah.
And I think AI is going to give us a lot more convenience, and people will be less inclined to put the effort in to doing that research and will rely on AI to recommend stuff to them. So I think whether we call it SEO...
I believe there's a balance to that, and there's a threshold, though, because 100% regarding Amazon, but if you tell me you're buying an electric car and you have a Tesla or whatever, I will go with whatever for those same reasons. Mm-hmm. I don't care how convenient it is, or even cheaper, half the price, because ethically it's so bad, the owner, whatever. Anyway, I'm not giving money to that.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that. And what I'm saying is, because the AI will know you, you're not saying you will just give me any recommendation because it's cheaper. You're offloading your mental workload to get to that decision because you trust that agent knows you and will go and make that decision for you. So you're just kind of like, fine. The other one.
Speaking about API, before even getting there, it was like 2 days ago in the latest Google announcement. It took me in the earning calls. Sorry, it was not an announcement. Earning calls from yesterday from Google.
Oh,
anyway, it really took my attention. One of the highlights, it was like how the developers were leveraging AI to generate code, and they were pretty much, their software engineers were pretty much approving the code of generated by AI. Yeah, it's here. It's here. Indeed.
So it's changing, but hopefully they're also still double checking the code because they don't want stuff to creep in. I believe someone gave a talk at a conference, I don't remember if it was Barbados, might have been Barbados, about how to get not malicious, but suspect code in to AI-generated development code. So that's an interesting area. But on the topic of where we were talking, where, we're all kind of in agreement that those of us who are advanced in our careers and advancing and are attending conferences and stuff, we've had to adapt and change. So one of the questions that's come in, it's rather temporally new, but what is the one SEO thing that you've started doing in the past few months that you didn't before? Or you can answer, what is the one thing you've stopped doing in the last few months?
Yeah, I could take that, and it's also my answer to the next question that's directed at me. So in the leak, they talk about this idea of like a site focus score and the site radius. So it's basically they take embeddings representing, all the pages on the site, and then they compare each given page to that. And then if something is too far, like the distance between it is too far, it basically means the subject is too far from what the core of the site is talking about. So we're now calculating that same thing, and then anything that's like below a 0.7 in cosine similarity, we're reconsidering that content. Like we might just delete it. So we're using that as part of our content audits, and we also built a free tool for it. It's like iPullRank.com/tool/site focus calculator or whatever, and you can just put in your XML sitemap. It'll crawl the whole site and it'll calculate that for you, and then you can compare your different pages and use it the same way that we do. And then as far as like what we're not doing anymore, no link building based on volume at all. Like we are doing kind of the same thing that they talked about in the leak. There's one of the measures that's called source type, where it basically says like where does this page live in the index, because it's tiered into 4 different categories: high, medium, low, and then fresh docs, which is basically news content. So we basically like replicate that score using a combination of like how much traffic does a page drive, what does it rank for, how well does it rank, and then also using standard link metrics. So we can say, okay, this is a high, medium, or low URL, and we only build links from the high stuff. And so we charge a lot more for link building now because it's harder, but we don't go after volume.
Wow, that's incredible. So that is it's a good hot tip for what you're doing and what you're not doing. And we were talking about link buying earlier, and buying links on sites that are likely to send traffic that will convert on the page that you're sending the traffic to. But Fernando, any thoughts on things you're doing that are new, or things that you think that you've seen that are no longer happening?
I believe it's not pretty new, but it's interesting in our point of view because we are launching several campaigns inside of SEMrush. We have several units inside of the team. I was part of one of the units that started SEMrush, and I know that, well, right now we are all aligned in terms of images. We were not making any much efforts to do the whole image thing, to write the meta description, to have everything aligned. But with the latest ranking factors that we did in April this year, we found out with the experimental correlation that, oh my God, it's in the top 5 most important things to have, because images right now with the generative AI are really important, and having the description of your image and having very professional images in your campaigns is important. Right now, every single image that we have is launched with a description of what it is, with the meta description, and something that we are starting doing more and more is to analyze all the content that we are creating inside of my unit, at least, with the terms of the quality of the content, because that's the second one. EAT and everything related stuff. And we have asked even ChatGPT to analyze that specific piece of content and say, give me a scoring for AAT factors. Well, that's a brilliant prompt if you're creating content, because you're going to be receiving all the details about expertise, experience, trustworthiness, and so on. And that's something that we are doing right now.
Wow. Wow, that's incredible. That's a good piece of insight that people who aren't here aren't going to get because they're at the other conference. See, and it's from you. It's even better. It's like a win-win. It's fantastic. What about you, Mark? Is there anything that you? I mean, my gosh, you had the API, the endpoint of the API. You saw everything from there, and so like, is there anything from that? It's not an exploit. It was an API endpoint. You didn't hack anything. You didn't break anything.
No,
you
sorry.
just accessed
It was just there. It was just waiting for anyone to...
Why were they serving that to the front end to begin with?
I have theories about that.
Okay.
I mean, with post-ranking stuff, so they're pulling up stuff that was calculated in ranking for like feature gen, things like that, which is why you can't see everything, like PageRank, for instance.
Got you.
But yes, in answer to the question, I think Cyrus touched on it earlier with like naming conventions. So now I put lots of pressure on like social media teams, anyone doing above the line advertising, to make the call to action now like a search action, which is actually kind of natural. You know, nobody's like, oh yeah, I remember that www. Typing in, they're like, yeah, that company name, that thing. So TikTok does super cheap video ads, right? And if you make kind of meme videos that people are interested in, you can put 20, 30 quid behind it, get thousands and thousands of views, and then have call to actions for people to read the content you've made the video about by telling them to search. So it's actually really easy, especially with new sites, to get an initial footprint of people are Googling the name of this thing and the subject, and they're choosing us over other sites in the search. Which seems, we did this on the rehabs client that I showed in the presentation that had the really nice uplift. And it's just consistently, optimizing their kind of footprint in terms of what we know now Google's kind of looking at as well.
Wow. So Aleyda, anything that you're
Nice.
doing new
So,
or not doing?
Yes, following on the e-commerce side of things,
Yeah.
something that I have started to pretty much standardize in the last year, because the wealth of rich results and SERP features and carousels, and product knowledge panels and so on, I have pretty much standardized to include in all reporting recommendations, communication with clients is like, okay, here's your position, but this pretty much meaningless or not, because of the pixel visibility of the results. So pixel position or height, this is something that advanced ranking again gives, and I believe that a few other tools like Stats, I believe, also provided, and Nozzle. So pixel visibility from the top of the SERPs on one hand, and then the share of visibility or voice in the SERP features that are included in those search results. So that provide context and allow the client to understand that we're still in the first position, but our click-through rate has gone downhill. Oh, it's because now there is a product carousel shown above the first results, the first position, right, and so on. And also allow us to identify better the opportunities to maximize the visibility accordingly and prioritize or reprioritize whatever plans that we have with the team. So there's that, and definitely a must, especially if you're working not necessarily only in e-commerce, but in an area that is being populated more and more with SERP features like that. And with AI overviews, I can definitely see this becoming also a must. Then, on the other hand, something that I have thankfully now I'm able to stop doing as I did before, and thanks because of the leaks, is that before every time that I provided a recommendation, the typical thing is like trying to argument or to showcase, like, oh, it's a ranking factor. Take a look at all of these mentions that Joe Mueller, this Googler, or not even official documentation, but a comment in social or at an event or something that they have mentioned that gave the hint that this might be a thing. It's like, you know what? It's like, really, we shouldn't be waiting for Google to confirm anything. Take a look at the leak, all what they have been saying all of these years and what was found at the end of the day. So no, I need the buy-in, I need the resources to test it if we don't want to go all in because we need to prove Pilot project, great. SEO A/B test, because we have a wealth of resources and platforms that allow us to do that even for cheap. SEO testing, for example, which is great. So I have stopped, thankfully. I realized, like, this is pointless. I don't need to be trying to argument or excuse myself like this. This is why. Like, and give me the resources, I will prove it. And let's move forward with it, because otherwise analysis paralysis is ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's good that you don't have to prove yourself anymore. An interesting question, though, and I think that we've had, I don't know, the one just below that is another existential crisis. And like, I'm just seeing these questions like that a lot of the SEOs in the audience are feeling a little bit stressed after the last couple of presentations, but the one that has the most votes at the moment is the AI conversations one, and whether these will be the next frontier of SEO. And I have to admit, I am now being asked more and more often if I want to start a conversation with a chatbot or an AI assistant rather than an actual human being. If so, what can we do to appear in, for example, ChatGPT's answers? And I think, if we're thinking about the not exploit, but thinking about the way that was demonstrated in the past of getting a backdoor into somebody's code simply by optimizing a specific way and in GitHub and things like that, and simply by making sure that this one file was always being linked to in that code, and therefore getting that in there, and then being able to manipulate that JavaScript code, that JavaScript file, because you control it, not the company that's just put the code on the site. You're laughing, Mark. This is the kind of thing I dream of. I used to do this on my own websites back in the day when people used to scrape. I used to have a JavaScript include file that I could change the content of, so anybody who was scraping and republishing my content without my permission would all of a sudden find, if they haven't checked the code, that they have a warning sign on their site saying this is stolen content.
Warning sign.
Because I controlled the JavaScript.
You can deliver affiliate cookies as well instead of the image.
Nice.
I'm that kind of chaotic evil. I'm not like, lawful evil, where I'm like, well, yes, I'm evil, but what I'm going to do is just put a cookie on since you've decided to steal from me. But do you think that, like, how are people going to sneak in? Because we did speak earlier about Google and Google's AI answers, and the possibility that they might end up putting paid links in those AI answers. And at the moment, we have links, but the possibility for the future could be paid links. Do you think that, like, ChatGPT is now going to be a new frontier of SEO?
You asking him?
Any of you guys?
All right, boom. I got thoughts here. So, one, ChatGPT is like so much smaller than Google. And I know the media keeps feeding it back to you like, oh, it's going to change everything. Yo, Google drives 100x the traffic of ChatGPT right now. And sure, that could potentially change, but I don't think it's going to change overnight. I mean, we've seen that ChatGPT has beat the traffic from Bing, but Bing gets no traffic. So, I mean, it's not that big a deal. I think the only way someone truly supplants Google is if Google gets taken apart by the US government. Because otherwise, you can't beat them. Like, they have all the user data so they can refine their results better than anyone else. They invented the tech behind all this stuff. They just weren't using it because they didn't think it was good enough. And they also have their own chips. So, like, OpenAI is going to run out of money before Google does, and Google can just sit around and take the best features. I don't think it's realistic that we are going to, it'll be like, oh, it's just search GPT and then everything else is done. But as far as, getting into these search results, it's all based on retrieval augmented generation, right? And so at the end of the day, you got to be in the sources that they're being used, that they're using to refine those results. And so for anyone that doesn't know what RAG is, that's basically where you combine a search engine with a language model. And so effectively what Google is doing with the AI overview is they're using the most relevant components from pages, serving that to the large language model to then generate the response. ChatGPT does the same when it's crawling the web or whatever, grabbing stuff, and then feeding that to the language model. So effectively, you need to have your message, your brand, in as many places that ChatGPT is using as an input as possible. And then there's a whole white paper that a few computer scientists put together called Generative Engine Optimization, where they tried a bunch of the different methods that are typically used to see what works to get you into these generative searches. And what they found is like the typical stuff like that we do, you know, the keyword stuffing or whatever doesn't really work. But the three methods that do work the best were having more authoritative language, citing sources, even if they're not real, and using statistics. So I would encourage everyone to check that paper out because they also give the prompts that they used in ChatGPT to generate better responses in their content, and then use that as like your testing ground to get started with this sort of stuff.
In addition to that, we are right now working with Statista on a research based specifically on that, on how ChatGPT is, in terms of search volume, compared to Google. And basically, it's nothing.
Wow.
And we have identified, we also launched another update inside of SEMrush that is called Daily Data. It's traffic analytics, right? And we have identified ChatGPT users and when exactly they are using it. And basically is during weekdays and during working hours. If we compare that to Google, basically people are searching on Google Saturdays, Sundays, day and night. It's a huge difference. So ChatGPT has been used as a tool, as a working tool, which makes sense. And in terms of, well, what is happening right now with AI conversations and so on, I have been testing a lot of Perplexity and how to index a web page on Perplexity. You need to have a paid, a pro version, a pros version to do that.
Yeah.
You can insert links into their brain panel, but you need to pay for it. So, well,
Perplexity's scraping anything anyway. Like they're ignoring everybody's robots.txt and just trying to grab everything. One more thing I wanted to say, because I found this in your data, and I don't know if this has changed since I originally looked, but 40% of all users that go to ChatGPT go to Google immediately after.
Yes.
So like, ChatGPT being an inherently broken product is forcing more people to go back to search. So again, I don't think it's going to be like, oh, ChatGPT and nothing else.
At the end of the day, it's about and we complain a lot in SEO about Google quality and reliability, etc. But at the end of the day, they don't it doesn't make up stuff in a way that is harder for the user to double check. In this case, we can say, okay, AI overviews in making this stuff up. They very quickly reverted the release and make sure to start releasing very little by little. And if they ended up making up stuff because of bad interpretation of the content that is out there, the sources are easily findable.
Yeah.
They are there. They are very highlighted nowadays with the new UI. So they are covering their backs. In any case, the way that they are implementing it, and this is the thing, they are not doing it because, they are the saviors of the web or the open web. But realistically, they have skin in the game because of the ads business that they run. But realistically, I believe that ChatGPT, and they were testing their SearchGPT feature interface that at some point they say that they are going to release it as a search product. They need to be very careful how they endorse the websites that they mention, the sources of the information at the end of the day, because if you don't refer the traffic, then on one hand it's about validating the information, the insights that they provide and they source on, and then on the other hand, to be factual, to be accurate, on one hand, and then on the other hand is about the business model. How do they money? How there is an incentive for creators and content writers to keep generating this content on the other hand, right? So Google has more skin in the game because of the ad business and much more restrictions, and because they are like already the leaders, so they cannot get away with whatever, and they are much more careful, and that is why at the end of the day, they're integrating their AI overviews in the way that they are at this point. Then on the other hand, you recall me regarding like optimization or manipulation of trying to get into the results. I love that in this case, it's much more natural in the way that Google should have worked in the first place because of, yes, backlinks is the signal that initially changed search engines with Google, right? And
Yep.
what they introduced with PageRank. But with LLMs, like citations, you don't even need to have a backlink, right? But being mentioned and have an alignment and consistency with all of these mentions about this particular entity being this or that now they can recognize and provide as an answer. So there's that. But yes, I mean, at 100% regarding the market share, also being something that can be easily understandable or reliable to most of the users, not us necessarily. So let's see what happens. I'm not necessarily that scared of they won't necessarily refer the traffic at all because there's too much more at stance and very big players, not necessarily the indie publishers, but very big players counteracting and making a point legally that doesn't happen, right?
Yeah. Does anybody know what Statistica? Statista? Is that what it is? Does anybody know what that is? There's a few hands. Okay, good. Because you mentioned it, and I was thinking, like, I hope everybody knows that it's a big deal that SEMrush is working with them and that you guys are analyzing so much information. But that's incredible, and it's actually really, really good. And a little bit heartening as an SEO to realize that despite the fact that, ChatGPT seems to present an existential threat and people are asking how to optimize to get into it, that actually the traffic isn't that big. And, as you said, people are going back to Google. They're going to ChatGPT, they're searching, they're going back to Google because maybe they can't trust it, maybe it didn't give them a very good result. So we have got a few other questions about, as you can see on the top here, with Google promoting more and more things, and organic is becoming less prominent. How is traffic going to come in the future? There's also some that are below the fold there. Will Google become irrelevant in 5 years? There's a lot of places that we could be thinking about getting traffic besides SEO and PPC, because we've mentioned over the day TikTok. We've not mentioned Instagram. Instagram's a little more difficult. You need Linktree or something similar to click out. Facebook, and there's all sorts of places. YouTube, you can put a clickable link in YouTube and get a click from YouTube to your website.
Yeah,
There's
but organic search drives more traffic than all those channels.
It's true. I'm just going with how are we also going to get traffic?
There was a post from Ran a few months back, like showing the data. I think it was also with a collaboration with Datos.
Yes.
It's like more than Facebook, Instagram, all others combined by a lot. I mean, we have this feeling that unfortunately there's traffic erosion because of the search features, but still, right? And realistically, what a lot of this does is also to generate a lot of fragmentation on the searching journey, right? And how longer, let's say, is the query tails and how many more queries are generated. And that is not so straightforward. Yes, indeed, the head term doesn't have such a high search volume anymore, but there's a much newer, longer tail of queries connected to that particular topic because of how Google is endorsing and generating the opportunity for users to start asking more or going more granular for these searches because, of course, these are opportunities for them to show more ads at the end of the day. But if the users are smart, they will click on the organic results that we provide. So there's that opportunity too. The problem, by the way, is that a lot of the tools don't provide that information because search volume is very, very low. And so, of course, if we're still doing the keyword research as we do, relying on, high search volume, top terms, we create our topic cluster, whatever. These zero search volume keywords, we overlook them because there's no opportunity. Not anymore. So there are many resources out there, guides about zero search volume, keyword research, and content building. There's a huge opportunity there, and we should also run tests in case you don't believe in it and validate if it is relevant for your own context based on the search behavior. But there's something there for sure.
So while we have run out of time, there was a very quick question that came in really, really late. That was, what's the name of the paper Michael recommended? And they've used your full name, so I think you're in trouble.
I feel like I'm in trouble. Generative Engine Optimization, or GEO.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And please, everybody, give a warm round of applause for our amazing final panel.